Hi, Jenny here. Today we are going to make another versatile recipe. We are going to make south of the border beans, and we are going to turn that into south of the border tortilla soup. So let's get started. For the basic recipe, we are going to need 1 teaspoon of olive oil, 1 cup of onion chopped, 1 can of red beans, 1 can of white beans, 2 cans of black beans, 2 cans of diced tomatoes, preferably seasoned with that basil, garlic, and oregano, 1½ teaspoons of chili powder, 1½ teaspoons of cumin, 2 teaspoons of minced garlic, 1½ cups of frozen corn, and then when we make it into the soup, we're going to need about 28 ounces of broth, cup's worth or so, a handful of tortilla chips that we'll crush and put in the soup, and then for rimming the bowl, and then some Mexican cheese for garnish. In either a large skillet or in a stock pot that you'd make soup in, we are going to go ahead and start with cooking the beans. So we'll go ahead and add that teaspoon-ish or so worth of oil to cover your pan. And we'll cook the onions until they're translucent. So we'll go over that medium to low heat. We'll start with this. As I mentioned in the beginning, this is another one of those versatile recipes that you can make just this bean portion if you like, and then have that for your meal and leftovers or whatever. Or you can then serve it different ways. So we can serve it over rice, or we can serve it as a soup. So because of making it a soup, again, we can make this whole recipe just like it is, and then we can add it into a stock pot and make the soup that way. Or I think today I'm just going to try, seeing as this is a really big pan, I think I'm going to try just making the soup right in here. Because in reality the only other ingredient besides what's in here is kind of the broth and the cheese. So this original recipe here makes 8 cups. And for our soup recipe, it only calls for 4 cups. So this one kind of gave the 2 recipes with this. So it had the south of the border beans, which obviously again you can eat just as it is. And then it gave a little bit of a recipe, so again a little bit of add-ons of using 4 cups of the beans and serving it with the rice. And then another portion of the recipe was use 4 cups of the beans and make soup. So while the onions are cooking and getting translucent, I'm going to go ahead and drain all the beans into a colander and rinse them. Once the onions are translucent, which should be fairly quickly after you finish rinsing the beans, because that goes fast, we will go ahead and add those beans in. And go ahead and add the rest of our ingredients also. So we have our 1½ cups of that corn, cans of our tomatoes. Usually I rinse my cans and put them in here, but I think I have extra broth. So I might just put the extra broth in here instead. We'll see. I'll start off with the amount of broth that it calls for and see if it needs extra liquid. But stir this up a tad and get our seasonings in there. Of course, I sneezed while rinsing the beans, so now my nose is running. I feel like I have to sniff. Okay. And you see this makes a very large pot full. Okay, so we need a teaspoon and a half each of our chili powder and cumin. Of course, my teaspoons don't fit in there. Chili powder. Depending on the brand of chili powder, I've noticed will depend on the spiciness of it. I think I had one that was, it was more the store brand or whatever, and that was fairly like, yeah, I can handle all this chili powder. And then we got one that was, I don't know, from a spice shop or something or other, and oh, that was spicy. I had to cut back on the amount of whatever I was using in my recipes. Okay, and then two teaspoons of the minced garlic. This is a brand new jar I haven't used, and I almost had to, I almost asked the mailman to help me open it. I couldn't get it open. I was struggling. And then I saw the mailman come by, so I was like, ooh, I could run out there and ask him. Seeing as I, wanted it for the recipe, because obviously I could wait for Wayne to come home and have him open it for me, but obviously then this wouldn't be done or whatever. But I did also have some, I have some cloves of garlic. So I would have done it that way, but I figured, well, this was easy. The garlic's already minced and good to go, and this recipe actually called for it that way. Again, not that it matters. Fresh garlic would also be just as good and tasty. And sometimes that's what you have on hand. Especially if you grow your own garden. Do any of you guys grow your own vegetables? Have a garden? Grow your own garlic? I followed one couple who was doing a lot of gardening videos. It wasn't really homesteading per se, but they did a lot. They did a lot of gardening, and then she was doing some canning and all that. And they also had their own home business of laser engraving. So the husband ended up, he was doing well enough with doing the laser engraving. He had quit his full-time job, and they're running that out of their basement. And then she would help package up the stuff. So it was a family kind of run business. They had 3 kiddos, I believe. And then he got either like another machine, or they were getting so busy they were kind of outgrowing their little basement area. So they moved to the garage. In the meantime, they kind of stopped doing their little gardening videos. And I was like, oh man. They even had a little greenhouse. So they would have like lettuce or spinach all year round. And I loved watching that. Learning some tips and tricks. She grew her own garlic. But for the last year or so, they've been too busy with life. And like I said, he's been doing his other stuff, and now he's gotten into embroidery and things like that. He's even outgrown his garage with how many machines he has and what he's doing. And it sounds like from his last video, he actually hired a couple more. He hired a couple part-time employees, which is very nice that he was able to do that. So that was Matt and Sarah. That was the gardening type channel, which those videos are still up. They're still good if you care to check those out, some of her recipes and planting and stuff. And then Laser Engraving with Matt is his business channel, where he tries to show people like what machines he's using and how he's using in the settings, and telling people you can do it, you can make it. There's lots of business out there. Like I said, he's kind of overrun. He's got so much to do that that's showing that there is the need out there. If you want to try your own home business that way, you can do it. Okay, well, the other thing I wanted to show was that usually one large onion makes like 2 cups worth of chopped onion. So I cut up the other half right away while I was at it. That's what I like to do when I have leftover onion if I don't think I'm going to use it right away. And put it in a baggie. And then I have a bag for my freezer that's marked onion. I double bag these because onion is very aromatic. And so if you put just the one baggie in the freezer, a lot of times it will smell up the whole freezer and the refrigerator of onion. So by double bagging, it's done pretty well. Sometimes I smell a little bit, but not as bad. So anyways, then I put this in the freezer, and then again when I'm making my meals on the weekends and stuff, like I just made, I made the crock pot lasagna soup. I made that this last weekend. So I made a pot for my mom and a pot for us, and the recipe was pretty simple, of basically just a marinara sauce and lasagna noodles and ground beef. And I thought, well, what else kind of goes in lasagna? You know, like either cottage cheese or whatever. And I thought onions, I could throw onions in there, and I happen to have 2 baggies of onions, so I put 1 baggie full in her soup and 1 baggie full in our soup. And then with the cheese, I think I added some cheese right in, which again, it was supposed to be like garnish, but I'm like, I'm just gonna add the cheese right in, then it's good to go. And it was good. It was so tasty. But anyways, I will pop these in the freezer. Alright, we're just going to let this heat through a little bit so that it's nice and warm. So there we go, it's steaming. And then I'm going to go ahead and set 4 cups of this aside. And then we'll add the broth in here and basically kind of turn this into soup. So we'll turn off the heat for right now. And I'll clean up, and we'll take care of getting the 4 cups out of here. I have pulled out 4 cups of the bean mixture. I've had the heat back on, about medium heat. I'm going to pour in the broth. I'm going to measure out the amount that I need, that way I can just keep what's left back in, keep it in the container. So I can store it that way, as opposed to just having, I measured out like a cup's worth first, and I was like, well. So a box of broth is usually 4 cups. So we need about 3 cups for this recipe. So I'm going to just do that. Although in reality, maybe I'm gonna wait, because you know what? That's looking pretty brothy right there. And again, this is all that we're adding in there. The other thing the recipe called for was like the juice of half a lime. I forgot to get a lime at the store, but I do have lemon juice. And I looked it up, and it does say you can use some lemon juice in place of a lime. It's not going to have the tartness, but it'll still give that acidity. You can also use the spice called tahini that has chili powder in there and lime, and that'll give you some spiciness. So if you like the flavoring of that, if you have some of that on hand, go ahead and add that. So we're just basically going to bring this to a boil. Here I was thinking that was too many beans, but I'm like, well, for the amount of broth that's going to be in here, that'll be fine. We'll see how it goes. Can always add more broth, because I knew I had extra broth. But that's looking pretty soupy right there. So that was only 2 cups. If you prefer more broth, obviously add more broth. Some people like more broth of a soup. I prefer more soup. More of the ingredients, the heartiness. So, I'll turn this on high, we'll get this boiling. It has taken me a while to get to this recipe, so in the meantime, we've been eating our chips. So, I pulled out some of the full-size chips that we can nicely decorate around the side with some of the more broken up chips or with some other chips. We'll just grab a handful and go ahead and just break those up and put those on the bottom of your bowl. I guess here again, obviously, you can also just top your bowl with some broken chips if you want to, but we'll go ahead and just get that covered for right now, and then we will add our soup and decorate the side with the other chips. The soup is boiling, so I'm just going to go ahead and add in about half a cup of cheese. Again, if you don't like cheese, don't want the cheese, don't add it in, because again, you can just use it as a garnish if you'd like. But I measured out half a cup here, and I'll just stir that in real quickly, and then we will serve it up. Hot. Ooh, alrighty. The south of the border beans are finished. So the south of the border beans, basic recipe, and then we kind of turned that into the south of the border tortilla soup. So basically putting some broth in there and using the tortilla chips. Again, with just the basic bean recipe, you can serve that over rice, or you can even serve that with tortilla chips and do it that way, not even adding the broth. You can serve it as a soup without the tortilla chips. Obviously the tortilla chips that are on the bottom are going to get soggy with having that soup on top of there, and also the ones that are rimming the bowl here. This is hot. Did a good job heating it up. Ooh, let's see if I can hold it and taste it. So again, this was one of the recipes that had been in my my main cooking book that I have. So it means that I have made it at least once before, and that I liked it, so I wanted to make it again. I don't recall as using it as the soup. I probably just made it as the bean portion and ate it that way, or maybe I put it over rice. But I know the basic recipe that I did like. This is steaming. I should try it with the tortilla chip and put it in there, but the beans are very flavorful. I like that. Got the tomato. So I do like it as the basic recipe. It was very tasty. And there wasn't a whole lot of seasonings in there, just that chili powder and cumin. So that was good. I don't know as though there too, if my tortillas get soggy, if I can even scoop up anything with them. Let's see. Oh yeah. It's hot. Hot, hot. Oh, can I hold it this way? Maybe, maybe not. There we go. Not burn my fingers. As I figured, break the tortilla chip. Let's see if I can do it and not drop the spoon on the floor. I like that. That gives it, again, just a little bit of extra flavor. Same, I don't know as though I'd use it as a soup. I think I would just do the bean recipe and serve tortilla chips like on the side, and that way you can eat your beans that way, scoop it up with the tortillas. Very good. Yummy, yummy. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this recipe. I will leave it down below, and let me know in the comments down below if you like to make like a bean soup. If you've made like a bean recipe, do you like to eat it with tortilla chips? I'm trying to think of nachos. Usually have a nacho dish. My husband used to get the nacho dish at the restaurants when we go. Like after volleyball night, way back in our youth. But that's usually like ground beef and stuff. But I'm sure they have them with the beans, kind of like at a Mexican restaurant. They have the beans and the corn and onion and all that. So anyways, I like it. It's delicious. So I'm going to go enjoy my lunch. You guys keep it positive. Go make it a great day. Bye-bye.